it was frustrating. It did not look like argument or debate as we have traditionally seen it. So let's again just kind of, take ourselves through a mental checklist of what we know about argument. Well, we know that the goal of argument is to persuade or convince an audience to adopt your point of view. Not sure if a lot of that went down last night. We also know that in terms of argument, there's claim plus support. So there is this idea of laying out a claim, laying out the evidence so that you can win. So while we're talking about specifically whether or not democracy in America, is under threat based on what you saw in the debate last night, we can also look at it as truth under attack, is the ability to disagree civilly, is that under attack? Because what we traditionally would judge who won that debate, it would normally be who had the most compelling evidence, who presented enough in a way to the audience, because again, this is who you are attempting to win over, who presented enough to the audience for them to have enough information to make up their mind, right? And that is just not what the argument or what debate looked like at all last night. We have a sense of times or social norms are changing. So where professional, I think I saw somebody use the word, it was unprofessional, where traditionally the way that these debates are conducted is they have a level of professionalism to them. So we can think about ethos, right? The credibility of the speaker, the credibility of the arguer. That idea is somewhat turned on its head when it's not so much is that person credible or believable or likable. The person also has to be likable. It's more of how many quotables can I make, or how low can I go, right? So what I witnessed last night was almost a RIP to just social norms in terms of debate and how we argue and how we work through issues, that we may have, or how we deal with disagreement. So where it says, do I feel that democracy is under attack based on the way things went down last night? Yeah, something made that okay, right? So look, to quote the great OG songwriter Prince, right? It's a sign of the times, right? It's not so much who's professional. It's not so much who is the best qualified. It's not so much that believability or likability of the speaker. It is who delivered the most jabs. You know what I mean? So the reason that I will say where I stand on the question, do I feel that democracy in America is under attack? Yes, because anytime you see those social norms that held democracy together being subverted, it's a scary sign, in that something made that okay. There's shifts in society that are making it okay for us to be, vicious, or for us to be um, beyond expertise or truth. It's mainly all about, I guess, jabs. Yeah, it got personal. Absolutely. So with that being said, I said I didn't want to go into it, but I went into it, didn't I? But yeah, as audience members, I want you guys to also be mindful of exigence cause, like looking at what is going on behind the scenes that is causing us to question, things in this way. I don't think I was ever asked when I was in school, college, or graduate school, if democracy in America is under attack. There was just no signals or signs to that. Not, at least I'll say, that was in regular or in the forefront, let's say, of debate. We never considered whether or not democracy was under attack. But the fact we're asking that question now, that it's threatened. If anybody who is not from, let's say, the United States watched that, or from the USA, didn't watch that debate. Sorry, you guys, watch that debate and didn't cringe. Well, what America has always presented itself is, democracy is best. Look how democracy works here. Don't you want this for yourselves, right? There's always this idea that America is this beacon of democracy and of goodwill. But what we witnessed last night, I don't know if that necessarily lined up with the certain ideals. So that's why I say it may be a little bit more telling of bigger issues, bigger underlying societal issues that we have. But we know this, right? Okay, so one thing that I'm hoping, and I actually I actually stopped myself before asking this question, and I thought maybe I should ask about football. Like maybe that'll be less risky or trivial, right? So while I'm putting this away and putting up, bringing up what we plan to work on today, let me ask the question about football. Look, so what did you guys think? Anybody who have been following about the changes made on Sunday with the pulling Mitch Trubisky from the game and putting in Nick Foles. Look, does any of my people want to quickly shout out your ideas on that? Good move, bad move? What do we think?
Best decision they could have made all season.
I see you, Sion. So, I hear best decision they could have made. What else do you guys think about that?
Best decision in 3 years.
Okay, best decision. I hear you, Caesar.
They actually play offense.
Yeah, you can almost tell like the morale changed too. So yeah, you could tell. I think I saw Faith say bad move. I'm sorry, good move. I've seen this debated, I've been watching the little sports shows and everything, and it's an interesting debate. But if you guys know anything at all about Chicago football, the thirst is real for a impactful, strong quarterback. So again, we're entering a conversation already in progress. We've been debating this, right? The right moves to make from the beginning. Look, if you let my son tell it, he says they never should have drafted Trubisky in the first place and should have picked one of the draft picks who I think they went second and third, Mahomes and, I know, don't talk bad about me if I forget the guy's name, who played for the Ravens. You guys know what I mean. All right, anyway, putting that to bed for now. I wanted to kind of make things a little bit lighter and fun today, somewhat. I'll do my best. But we talked about and we were introduced to rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, and logos. But I presented that information to you guys in an asynchronous video. So I never really got to, practice that information with you guys. So I wanted to take a really quick opportunity for us to revisit what we learned about ethos, pathos, and logos through a exercise. So let me share my screen. Oh, hold on, I see some things. Oh, look, I see Faith. Lamar Jackson, that's it, Sion, that's it. Yeah. All right. Share my screen. This is going to be a little rough. The game, so it kind of presents itself as a Jeopardy game. But the only problem with that is I don't want us to necessarily be on opposing teams. It's going to be hard to do that, but let me try. You guys work with me. Let me see. They're going to try to make me do teams. All right, let me do 2 teams. Actually, let me go back. All right, sorry, you guys. I should have had this up before you came, before I called us together, but we can do this fast. I'm gonna go ahead and play like we have teams. No, we don't want a buzzer. Team captains, we don't need any. All right, you guys are familiar with how we play Jeopardy, right? Normally there's categories, you select a particular value under a category, and we'll see how this goes. Now, anybody can kind of throw out your answers, but let me just make sure I know who it is before I call whether it's right or wrong. So, all right, we're thinking about what we learned about ethos, logos, pathos. So what you'll be looking at in this game is several examples of a claim being made. And I want you guys to identify how this claim is being supported. Is it ethos? Is it logos? Or is it pathos? So you see here, they are talking about Shaq promoting Icy Hot. So we know how advertisements use the rhetorical strategies to persuade or convince. What rhetorical strategy is being used here if we are looking at Shaq being the spokesman for Icy Hot? So he's attempting to persuade consumers to purchase this product. What form of rhetorical appeal is being used here? Okay, I see a couple. Sebastian hit first with ethos, I say ethos. But what do you guys think? Do we agree or disagree with that? I see a couple of ethos. I see pathos, and I see logos. Okay, so we can look at this several ways. I see ethos. So Alejandro, I see you there. I guess I can take a count. So looks like the majority of you say ethos, even though I do have a couple who say pathos, and I think also about 2 who say logos. Why do we feel, for those of you who selected pathos, why do we feel that this particular advertisement uses pathos to appeal to its audience? Now, keep in mind, when we think of pathos, we are talking about an appeal to emotions, right? Oh, I see, Leslie, you said because he's appealing to his fans, which will make them buy it. Okay, so the appeal to fans. Now, I see what you're saying, but with pathos, it's mainly an appeal to emotion. So let's say if he was appealing to fear, or if he was appealing to jealousy, and using that to win people over to his side, I could see. But the fact that he is appealing to fans may mean that what they are appealing to is his expertise. He is a trusting, likable, believable spokesman for this product. He is an athlete, so I would know that he would also have experience with these types of pains. The Icy Hot helps to relieve. He played for many, many years. So he had longevity. So what Shaq represents to the consumer is he is believable. He is, likable. He has that believability factor. So that's ethos. With him being the spokesman, he is hoping that his influence, that his appeal can win people over to his side. So they have to see him as a reliable source. They have to see him as credible in order to be persuaded. So that's ethos. So for those of you who selected ethos, I think my first person to pick that was Sebastian. Look, I'm just picking a pair. So we'll say that we have that. That is ethos. Good. All right, let's look at another. Look, I know. Oh, well. Sorry, you guys. So they only let us go one round before establishing the winner? That doesn't sound like fun. Oh, I know what I can do. Let me take out that there's even teams, and then I won't have to bother with that. All right, sorry you guys. I'm trying to do something new and it's a little bit of a rough start. All right, so let's see what else we can find with this. Oh, we did this already. Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry guys. One more again. Let me try this one more time. Let me play it as choice. Sorry, you guys. I wish I could really bypass this. Kahoot, I know, right? Yeah, so true, so true. I'm just going to say select. So it says select a question by category. Let me try this one more time. All right, don't leave me, you guys. Let's do this. All right. Yeah, me and Cahoots next time, definitely. I had played around with this earlier and it really seemed like, maybe if I can do it one more. Let me try one more. Hold on, you guys, one more. I know my time gets away quickly. Let's see if I can fit in one more. Okay, I'm gonna stop taking us through this. Let me stop. Okay, you guys, that's okay. I have one more to go to. There's a couple more I want us to practice, so hold on. That's okay. I got one more to pull from. Now, for those of you who may had viewed the Ethos, Logos, Pathos presentation in last week's module, going back to that, there were a couple of questions at the end of that presentation that I think we can use really quickly. All right. Look, if I could call for a technical malfunction, that's kind of what I'm having. Bear with me 2 seconds, you guys. Hold on. This up really quick. Okay. If you guys know anything about Prezis, they're a little bit difficult to navigate through, so sometimes. Let me share my screen with you guys. So just like I attempted to do with the Jeopardy game, you guys will see scenarios, and I want you guys to let me know whether that particular scenario reflects Ethos, Logos, or Pathos. Okay. Okay, let me share. I'm getting it together. All right. So I'm going to kind of just space bar myself through this right to the end of the presentation. This was a pretty helpful presentation in kind of breaking down those parts. All right, so let's take a look at this. All right, so if you guys can see on the screen, hopefully it's not too big, there is a scenario. So let me read it to you. It says, my 3 decades of experience in public service, my tireless commitment to the people of this community, and my willingness to reach across the aisle and cooperate with the opposition make me the ideal candidate for murder. For mayor. Look, I'm obviously thinking of Nurse Ratched. It's on my mind. But what do we think about this, you guys? Is this a evidence of ethos, logos, and pathos? What do we think is happening right here? Which rhetorical appeal is being used? All right, I see you, Leslie, Alejandra, Jorge, Caesar. Okay. All right, I got a couple of you guys. So far, the only thing I see that's coming up in chat is ethos. So if you paused for a second, if you weren't totally sure, that's okay. For those of you who responded ethos, you are correct. This is a example of the believability, likability, credibility of the actual candidate. So in making this statement, my 3 decades of experience in public service, my tireless commitment to the people of this community, and my willingness to reach across the aisle and cooperate with the opposition make me the ideal candidate for your mayor. So he's presenting himself as credible. He's presenting himself as the most believable, if you will, the most qualified candidate. And we see that there. Do you guys see any other appeals taking place in this? Do we see signs of anything else other than ethos? I see where he says my 3 decades of experience. The use of the number is always compelling, but to say I've had 30 years of experience, that's logos. So again, that experience still speaks to the credibility of the author. So without a doubt, this is ethos, but I still see evidence of logos, logic, reasoning. The fact that they outlined 3 elements, the 30 years of experience, a tireless commitment to community, willingness to reach across the aisle and cooperate. That's almost to a laundry list, and for I would make the most logical selection, right? So I see that too. All right, moving on. All right, what about this one? It says they've worked against everything we've worked so hard to build, and they don't care who gets hurt in the process. Make no mistake, they're the enemy, and they won't stop until we are all destroyed. What type of rhetorical appeal is being used here? Okay, I see you guys. Shout out to Ricardo, Jariah, Leslie, Caesar. So the catch with all of us throwing it in chat is someone who, let's say, for instance, may not have totally made up their mind. It could help to persuade or convince them. So if you identified again, pathos, you are correct. It's a clear appeal to a feeling. And just in reading this, what evidence do you guys see that there is an attempt here to appeal to feelings, to fear, to that particular feeling? Do you guys want to share what evidence you see of it here?
I said the parts where it says we work so hard to build and they don't care who gets hurt.
The word choice, the we worked so hard. Then to the language, they and we is a language where the person is setting up an us against them type of idea. And that is stirring up, if not necessarily fear, then definitely, group feeling. So they're establishing particular or certain groups. They've worked against everything we've worked so hard to build, and they don't care who gets hurt in the process. They're the enemy, and they won't stop until we're all destroyed. So again, word choice. Who said that? I think Jariah stated that. Let me double check. Yeah, okay, good. I like that, Jorge. Won't stop until we're all destroyed. Use of the word destroyed, right? It brings with it, doom and gloom. So it invokes certain feelings. So we see that here. It is a very persuasive tool. The use of fear, or the use of tapping into your audience's emotions, because a lot of times emotions forego logic. It may not always make sense to me, but if I feel it so strongly, those are feelings that can be used to persuade and convince. So they also talked about too how it can be used to manipulate, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, let me see what's next. All right, what about this one? More than 100 peer-reviewed studies have been conducted over the past decade, and none of them suggest that this is an effective treatment for hair loss. So what type of rhetorical appeal or strategy is being used here? Okay, I see you. All right, I see you guys here. I got a couple of you coming in and quick on the gun. Jariah, Caesar, Jorge, Faith. This is what you're looking at, is an example of logos. And we see that just with logos, we know it's normally numbers. It's normally factual information, normally statistics, research, studies. So we see a little bit of all of that going on here. It says more than 100 peer-reviewed studies have been conducted. So we know we're talking about research, right? And the findings of that research is that 0 out of 100 peer-reviewed studies, 0 suggests that this is an effective treatment for hair loss. So the logical conclusion you would draw from that is this treatment doesn't work, right? So they are depending on logic, this logical appeal, and it's logos. We see the various areas where they applied it, the 100 studies, research that's been conducted over 10 years. So it's telling me that research time and time again is showing that this is an ineffective treatment. So good. This is a good example of logos. Good. Let's see what else. I think there's only maybe about 1 or 2 more. This one. Don't be the last person on the block to have their lawn treated. You don't want to be the laughing stock of your community. What type of appeal is used here to convince people to mow their lawns? What are they using? All right, I see you here, Julia. I see you guys. I see you, Jariah. We'll talk about it. But for the most part, I see you, Johnny. Thank you. It looks like we are classifying this as pathos. And again, a lot of times with pathos, you look at things like word choice. It's normally those connotations that audience members are emotionally attached to. So when it says, you don't want to be the laughing stock of your community, that is appealing to the fear of, well, I don't want to be embarrassed. Well, I mean, I definitely don't want people ridiculing me or making fun of me. So it's appealing to these ideas that, absolutely, Caesar, it's picking up on a fear. So there's an awareness of the audience. Almost everyone has a fear of looking bad. Almost everyone has a fear of public humiliation, right? And that is a very compelling fear. I've known students, and I've talked about this before, who, not that they don't have anything insightful or intelligent to add to a discussion, it's the fear of speaking up in front of a group. You know, it's the fear of being wrong if I, you know, share my answer. It's the fear of being humiliated, you know, that will keep students from even opening their mouth, you know, even contributing to discussions. But that fear alone, I've seen what it will do to, you know, not only my students, you know, I also have my son, and he's a teenager. You guys know, you know, with the age 16, 17, you know, some of you, that's your past, right? But that's an age where you really are influenced by peers. So that fear is a real fear. You guys as arguers, right, as writers of argument, you know, think too of ways not to manipulate your audience with pathos, but ways you can tap into your audience's fears or feelings in order to persuade or convince, right? So even the question I asked at the start of class about is, you know, when we think about democracy in America, is it under attack? Is it threatened? Well, for an audience member who may care deeply about America's democracy, well, the whole idea that I'm asking that question, that's a frightening question for some. You know what I mean? So appeals, what I call emotional appeals, they show up time and time again in argument. All right, let's look at this last one. Oh, no, sorry. It's just, oh, yeah, here it is. Now, this is an assignment. Using ethos, pathos, or logos, write a small paragraph convincing your parents to take away your curfew. Yeah, we don't have to do this. All right, but yeah, but again, still, even this, you know, number 5 question is setting it up. You know, how will you persuade or convince that parent, right? And I've kind of given away a bit of my secrets. Even day-to-day conversation, I consider who my audience is. What do they value? And in trying to get a point across to them, how can I appeal to them, right? Even as your teacher, you know, ways that if I want you guys to, let's say, study or care about completing a paper on time, there's certain appeals that I'll throw in order to persuade or convince. So keep that in mind. What you guys will find with that is that every supporting element in argument works to support that claim. So we talked about that already. Let me turn this off. It's kind of slowing my computer down. But what we didn't have a chance to talk about prior to you guys submitting your papers is not just claim plus support equals argument, but a lot of times it's what type of claim are you making? So as we answered the questions for essay number 1, you know, in terms of stereotype threat, what community does that impact? What are some negative impacts on that, right? In responding to that question, students are making a particular type of claim. And what I want us to know that in making a particular type of claim, it then informs what type of support would work best. So where we're learning about ethos, there is a time when it's in the arguer's or author's best interest to use ethos. There's a certain time when it's in the arguer's best interest to use pathos. And there's also a certain, you know, time when it's in the arguer's best interest to use logo. So I want to talk briefly before we get out of here today about ways of recognizing what type of claim you're making, what type of claim you're reading, and then looking for certain or particular types of support in order to persuade or convince. So let me pull up something really quickly. And this is a PowerPoint. I put it to the end of class because I do not want to exhaust you guys with PowerPoint presentations. I'm aware of the downside of that. But let me throw this out here just really quickly. Because as you guys working through week 6 module, you'll see that there are readings included. One of the readings discusses the racial disparities with pregnancy. So we're going to talk about that. Did you guys get a chance yet to read the articles that are in the module? Like, I know you guys are kind of still working on the module, but have anybody kind of jumped ahead and taken a look at the article? I think there's 2 I included in this week's module. I see you, Leslie, skim through. That's good. But again, we are sticking to this theme of stigma, and a lot of the controversial issues that we encounter in debate almost always revolves around some ideas, certain stigmas, what I call socially accepted beliefs, that we apply to situations. So I wanted to make us aware that a lot of times without trying, we do impose, biases. We do. We may try our best to avoid them, but even our best efforts, we still kind of move and relate to others by applying some form of a stereotype, some form of stigma. So the reading here, and let me pull up really quickly while I have this, our Brightspace course page, because if you guys haven't read it yet, in the module there is the text, New York Times. Oh, and I don't have it right in front of me. Hold on, let me give you guys more information about it. Bear with me. Oh, so I closed out of, oh, that's horrible. All right, sorry you guys. In closing out of something, it looks like I closed out of the internet. So hold on, let me pull this up. Okay. But this information about what type of claim is being made, how that claim is then being supported, this is something I want you guys to look for as you read the articles attached to this week's module. So just to help prepare what you guys will be working on this weekend, let's quickly go to the presentation. Let me knock this presentation out so that we can kind of discuss the reading. Is my camera having lag time, you guys?
No.
Noticing? Okay, good. Well, then it must be just on my end. All right, never mind. All right, it's moving a little slow, but it's moving, you guys. All right, here it is. All right, they made me sign all the way back in again. All right, this is a PDF. So when we think of claim plus support equals argument, it's important to know that there are different types of claims that can be made. So I did miss a day last week, last Wednesday, and you guys were given an asynchronous video. It talked about certain elements of claim plus argument. I'm sorry, claim plus support equals argument, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into that. So when you make certain type of claims, when you respond to your essay prompts a particular way, it then informs you as arguer how you should how you should prove, support, and develop a particular claim. So when you respond to the essay questions, you are making a particular claim. And just like we noticed with the language of rhetorical appeals or rhetorical strategies, there's certain language that is employed in the claims you make that not only speaks to the purpose, but also speaks to the best way to support and develop that. So let me show you guys. Let's kind of help that to make sense. So now that we've kind of been making our own arguments, you guys have submitted your first argument. It's important to know that virtually all arguments can be categorized according to one of 5 types of claims. So there's 5 types of claims, and claims can be identified by discovering the question that the argument answers. So it always begins with the essay question. You guys, even when you were writing your essays, you had the option to choose from 3 essay questions. How you responded, the answer that you included, in your response would then point you to a particular type of claim. So we're going to look at how by responding to arguments, you are identifying a particular type of claim. And once you know what kind of claim you're making, you'll then know the best way to support and develop that, okay? It says, as we browse the types, notice how the questions all invite different purposes and different points of view. So when you know that you're making, let's say, a claim of fact, you are arguing, did it happen? Does it exist? Is it true? Is it a fact? And this is something that when you guys, let's say perhaps wrote on that first topic, stereotype threat, in identifying it in certain communities, you were making a claim of fact, right? Is this true? Did it happen? Does this exist? And when you make a claim of fact, like it may look something like this. So here are a couple of examples of claims of fact. So women are as effective as men in combat. If I'm saying women are as effective as men in combat, the use of the language are, so again, it either is or it isn't when we look at facts. So by saying, women are, they're saying that it's true. Women, as a group are more effective, not more effective, are equally as effective as men in combat. So they're saying this is something that they believe is true. And in making a claim of fact, what normally works best to support that claim is logos, evidence, factual evidence, right? A lot of times nothing is more compelling than, that factual evidence that answers, again, that question, is it true? Did it happen? Does it exist? So women are as effective as men in combat. That's an example of a claim of fact. What about the ozone layer is becoming depleted? You guys see the language is, again, with a claim of fact. It either is or it isn't. So just earlier when I asked the question if, democracy in America is being threatened, those of you who said yes, or for those of you who said no, you are answering a question, either it is or it isn't. And once you make the claim, yes, you're making a claim that you believe this to be true. This is a fact. Democracy in America is being threatened or is under threat, right? So again, once you know what type of claim you're making, you know how to argue it. And you also, again, know the best rhetorical appeals in order to support it. All right, here's another example. Increasing population threatens the environment. Increasing population threatens the environment. They're not saying, I think it threatens the environment. It might threaten the environment. It is clear, black and white. It threatens it. Either it does or it doesn't, right? So we see, again, the claim of fact, right? Is it true? Proving if it's true. Does it exist? Did it happen? Another, Bigfoot exists in remote areas. Here we see the language exists. We know that a claim of fact is asking the question, does it exist, right? And here's another, men need women to civilize them. Ooh, I know that would be a debate, wouldn't it? But we see, again, the clear black and white. Either it is, the question is, do men need women or don't they? So you're either answering clearly a statement of, is it true? Does it exist, etc. So you guys kind of see how the claims of fact play out. They answer specific questions, and in doing so, they require specific support. All right, so note that all these claims of fact, that all of these claims of fact, but not everyone would agree with them. So just because you're making a claim of fact, or what you are arguing is fact. So again, that's what debate is. It doesn't mean everyone has to agree with you. Just because you feel that you're making what you call a claim of fact. A lot of time people say, well, once fact is presented, then there is no longer any argument. But that's not true. You guys saw in those samples of claims of fact that they're all controversial. And controversial issue is what we need in order to have argument. So we see that there. The facts in these claims need to be proved as either absolutely or probably true in order to be accepted by an audience. So, that's a characteristic of the claim of fact. It has to be proved as either it is, it probably is, or it's not in order to be accepted. So again, claims of facts normally are two sides to that coin. Either it did or it didn't. Either, it's true or it's not. It existed or it didn't. But there is usually no gray area with claims of fact. All right, another claim, and I want you guys to kind of make sure we're making note of these, is the claim of cause. So anytime you are making a claim of cause, it's normally answering questions like what caused it, right? Exploring this cause and effect relationship. Where did it come from? Why did it happen? What are the effects? What will probably be the results over short and, long term? And when you guys think about the question posed on our essay assignment sheet about, what do you guys think contributes to, the inequality between male and female athletes? I'm asking a question of cause. What do you think is the cause? Why is it happening, right? Where did it come from? That particular essay prompt encouraged students to make a claim of cause. So you are going to identify what's the contributing factors. What is causing this inequality? So a lot of times, again, when you are making a claim of cause, you are pointing out this cause and effect relationship. So last time we talked on Monday, we looked at the student sample where the student had argued what contributes to inequality between male and female athletes. That student identified media as the cause by pointing out media. They specifically made a claim, and it was then the student's job to, lay out in their argument how, media is the cause of, has kind of created this effect of, less visibility of female athletes, less pay, etc. So claims of cause. Here's a couple of examples of what that may look like. It says overeating causes disease and early death. Okay, it may seem like a claim of fact, but look at the word that they're using. Overeating causes disease. So they're speaking in that argument, I can guarantee almost by, or I can assume, I'll say assume, as an audience member, they're going to talk about how overeating causes disease, how overeating results in early death. So I know that it's not just so much is it true or if it isn't true. They're looking at the actual causes. All right, look at this one. A healthy economy causes people to have faith in their political leaders. So a healthy economy, we talk about cause. So here we see the word causes people to have faith in their political leaders. Definitely a controversial, debatable argument, but I know I can assume as an audience member that this essay is going to talk about how a healthy economy creates trust in the people, right? In the constituents, how it builds trust that benefits the political leaders. So we see that. Sending infants to daycare results in psychological problems later in life. we don't see the word cause, but we do see the word results in. So again, there's clear connection between this cause and effect relationship. We're looking at the results of. So I can assume in reading this particular argument that the essay is going to talk about how by sending your child to daycare, it can cause them to have psychological problems later in life. I'm not going to talk about whether or not it's true or not. I'm talking about the causes. This is what leads to, or perhaps may result in psychological problems later in life. Inadequate funding for AIDS research will result in a disastrous worldwide epidemic. So again, that language will result in, in the future, future implications. By not having enough funding, look at this. By not having enough funding for AIDS research, it is going to result in or be the cause of a disastrous worldwide epidemic. So again, we're looking at how one causes or leads to or results in the other. All right, lastly, crime is caused by lack of family values. I like the cause and effect debate. I personally feel like it's easier to persuade or convince an audience where I'm not asking you to consider if I'm right or wrong. It's not so much, again, black and white. It's not a fact, a claim of fact. I can be wrong if it either is or it isn't. But when it comes to claims of cause, all I have to do is give you some ideas of what could possibly cause it, what may be logical causes of it. And you can persuade or convince an audience, I want to say, a little bit more readily with claims of cause than you can with claims of fact. All right, so we're going to come back to claims of cause. Make sure you guys know that deals with looking at a cause and effect relationship. So when we think about that, the type of support for establishing a cause and effect relationship is factual data. Again, logos works really well when you make a claim of cause. We saw that with a student essay. That student infused that paper with statistics, numbers, logic, rationale, explanation in order to prove how one leads to the other. And we saw that done well. So you guys see that with claims of cause. Various types of comparison, that also works as a useful form of evidence or support, is showing parallels, analogies, comparisons that can help to prove how if it happened in this event, it could also happen in this. So again, when we talk about the types of claim, we are talking about how when you make a particular type of claim, it normally will inform you as to how or the best way for you to support it. So one of the best ways to support claims of cause is through not only factual information, the logos, but also bringing in, let's say, comparative studies, parallel cases and things like that. All right, so we talked about 2, about 3 down to go. There's also what they call a claim of prediction or a claim of hypothesis. And it is kind of based on what I'm looking at. Here is the conclusion, the only logical conclusion I can reach. So a prediction is a claim made about the future based on something being true in the present or the past. So again, when you make a claim of prediction or a claim of hypothesis, it's not a claim of fact. I'm not arguing that I'm right and someone is wrong. I'm arguing that, based on what I see, based on what history has, tells us, this may be true. Something like this may happen in the future. So it says, to assess the strength of a prediction, you will need to think about how much evidence there is in support of it, how clearly it is expressed, and how reliable, well-informed its source is. Anytime I think of claims of predictions or claims of hypothesis, I always think of climate change and global warming. And I know that you guys aren't as old as I am, but I remember being in grammar school and we started getting, or shall I say that, public debate started being infused with words like recycling, um, the environment, and awareness of the environment. And these particular early claims were made as claims of predictions, claims of hypothesis. If what we've seen so far is true, right, then clearly in the future, we can predict that X, Y, and Z will happen. So lots of claims of prediction made or prompted when I was younger, especially about the environment. They started talking about recycling, the importance of recycling, when that had never been an issue. My parents and grandparents, when I was younger, they did not recycle. That wasn't, compost and all of the things we do now to stay mindful of the environment. That wasn't happening then, but the debate started, and it began with, here's what's going to happen in the future. Here's what will happen if you don't do what needs to be done now. So even now when we talk about, debate, even though I do not want to revert back and talk about the debate from last night, but even when we think about debate and how different that debate looked from any other debate we had seen before, I could make a claim of hypothesis. I can make a prediction that possibly debates moving forward will never be the same, right? Those norms were kind of just ran over the other day. So who's to say anybody would go back? So I can kind of make a prediction based on what I see now or what I've seen in the past as to what the future could look like. That's what claims of prediction or hypothesis are based on. Let's look at these examples. Hypotheses are claims put forward for testing, which attempt a possible explanation of a particular event or event. So again, I'm bringing up global warming and things like that. But when we think about claims of hypothesis or claims of prediction, what comes to mind for you guys? What do you, if you think in terms of pictures, like visual, like, do you get an image or a visual in your head when you think of claims of prediction, claims of hypothesis? Is there any issue that comes to mind with that, you guys? Look, I used one about the environment, and we saw a lot about that last night as well. There's a debate on whether or not people are buying into global warming or not. But what's another issue that you guys have seen kind of root itself in claims of prediction or claims of hypothesis? What are you guys thinking? Like, am I making sense when I ask that? Let's see. Yeah, okay, I see that, Tatiana. It definitely pulls from that word hypothesis, because we know in the science realm, an hypothesis is something that you predict is going to happen. So with when we would hypothesize, if I add my baking soda to vinegar, I can predict that it will, let's say, explode in a volcano, even though they probably knew that ahead of time. But hypothesis is making predictions based on what evidence you have in front of you. So good. I'm glad you're making the connection to science, because it does consider that idea of making a prediction. Let me see. It's another way I can get you guys thinking about this. Let's see. For example, if I were to leave my house one morning and notice my car wasn't in the drive, I could offer a range of hypotheses to account for this. So maybe my nephew had taken the car. I had been acting very absent-mindedly as of late. Perhaps I left the car at work yesterday. Or we could draw the conclusion or hypothesize that the car had been stolen. But either way, what they're making here, even in these everyday examples, are claims as to, based on the evidence, there is no car in my driveway, what can I predict happen? Based on that evidence, what's my hypothesis? What can I predict or show in the future will happen as a result. Let me see if I can give us any examples. Oh, hold on, not claim of value. Let me see here. Uh-oh. Where it says, move its slight hand. For evaluation purposes, it is the essence of a hypothesis that it should be testable. So again, just like we learned in our grammar school science classes, if a hypothesis cannot be proved true or false, then it will not be a hypothesis proper. Okay, so we'll look at that a little bit later, but I want to give us one more go at an example of, yeah, that's perfect, Leslie. It's what someone thinks will happen based on the evidence that they have in front of them. So it's what someone thinks or predict will happen in the future based on what's going on now. So I could make, oh my goodness, I make these types of claims all the time. I'll tell my husband, and I know you guys are like, oh, she always talks about her family, but I'm just thinking of debate and how it moves around me. So when I think of claims of hypothesis or prediction, I think of when I make the claim to my son that certain habits that he's exhibiting will make it very difficult for him to navigate through college. I'm making a claim of prediction. I'm looking at what he's doing now, and I'm hypothesizing that if you continue what you're doing now, then I can predict it's going to make it very rough and hard for you in college. So I'll make these claims all the time. If you don't take notes, if you think you're going to memorize everything the teacher says to you, you're going to have a hard time, when you come to study or have to review information. So I'll make these claims. These are claims of hypothesis, claims of prediction. I really probably make too much of them, actually, now that I think about it. All right, moving on. We'll get a little bit more practice with claim of hypothesis and prediction, but make sure you guys have that down. There's also claims of value. And anytime we make a claim of value, we are looking at value. Is it good or is it bad? How bad or how good? Of what worth is it? It's often necessary to establish criteria for goodness or badness in these arguments. That's normally laid out, let's say, in the introduction or perhaps maybe in the rationale. But anytime we make claims of value, we are looking at what's the best product to use, or what's the best method to get something done, or maybe face-to-face learning is better than online learning. That's a claim of value. Anytime I'm using the word better than, I'm pointing out that one is good or perhaps maybe better than the other. Let's look at some examples that they have here. So I've pulled in the essay questions that we had. So I talked about stereotype threat. I talked about the inequality between the athletes. What was my third topic? Do you guys remember? I'm just trying to see how I can pull it in. Do you guys remember that third topic? Stereotype threat. I know I'm having a brain blip right now. Look, you guys. Look, help me out. What was that third topic about? Protests. Yes, thank you. Are protests effective? Effective to bring about change. So that may be a definitely a claim of value. Is it good? Is it good enough to spark change? I like that. Okay, let's see. What are some examples? Public schools are better than private schools. Yes. Again, that word better than, always claims of value. Science fiction novels are more interesting to read than romance novels. That word more, better, more. Dogs make the best pets. These are claims of value. Is it good? Let's see. Computers are a valuable addition to modern society. So the use of the language valuable, again, speaks to claim of value, right? Just how valuable addition to modern society. Look, what would modern society be without it, right? Here's another. Viewing television is a wasteful activity. wasteful. So pretty much arguing, it's a bad activity. So again, claim of value looks at, is it good? Is it bad? How good and how bad? That is the basis of the argument. So where you guys were arguing, is protest effective? You know, is it good enough to bring about change? You were looking at the value of protest. You were arguing its value, how important it is, how good it is. Or if you argued that it is not effective, you're arguing how bad it is, just why it isn't valuable enough to bring about that change. So when you make a argument of value, and they didn't throw out here what type of support you would add, but anytime you make a claim of value, the support that best persuade or convince audience is the ethos, bringing in that expert research, that expert evidence. Also statistics too. We talked about the guy who was running for mayor. Remember the example we had at the start of class? He talked about his 3 decades of service. He's showing how he's the better candidate. So ethos, even though that was a particular example of ethos is very compelling and useful when you make claims of value. Is it good or is it not? It's going to really depend on how well I argue it, the expertise or value that I put into my evidence. You guys see that? All right. I know I'm talking a highway down to a path. We got 5 more minutes. Let me get ready to get us out of here. So we've talked about claims of fact. We talked about claims of value. We talked about claims of prediction, hypothesis. Look, am I leaving anything out? I think that's about. And now we're going to talk about claims of policy. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I missed one. Sorry, you guys, for scrolling really quickly. I feel like I'm effect. I'm sorry. Claim of effect. So I'm just kind of making note of what we cover. I will ask you guys about this next time we see each other. But I'll just ask what you remember. So make sure you're kind of writing down or jotting some type of notes that you can then recall. So claims of policy. So we talked about claims of cause, fact, value, prediction, hypothesis. Claims of policy looks at, now that we've talked about it, what should we do about it? How should we act? What should be our future policy or recommendation? How can we solve the problem? So claims of policy always looks at solutions, okay? So maybe you could do a name association, policy equals solution, okay? Candidates now who are running, whether it's the presidential candidates or the Senate candidates, they're making claims of, policy, solutions I can offer to whatever problems that my constituents may have. So let's see what claims of policy look like. So we've talked about how language is used to really characterize the types of claim. Let's look at the examples of policy claims. We should stop spending so much on prisons and start spending more on education. Look at the word should. Well, we know claims of policy is all about what someone should do. How should we solve this issue? What's the best course of action, right? So here, we should stop spending so much on prisons and start spending on education. So they are talking about policy. The solution they're offering is less money to, lock citizens up, more money in educating them. So they're saying this is a policy that can solve the problem. Look at this next one. Children in low-income families should receive medical insurance from the government. So we have that word should. Clear indicator of claim of policy. So we know with claims of cause, we were looking for the word cause, results in. With claims of fact, we were looking for words like it is or it isn't, so we were looking for certain particular words. Keep in mind when you think of claims of policy, should. It's always should. Look at this one. Social Security should be distributed on the basis of need rather than as an entitlement. So looking at the debate, and this one is interesting because the debate of Social Security or entitlements, as it's referred, someone is making a claim on that issue. So Social Security should be distributed on the basis of need rather than just be awarded, or given to someone. But, I personally feel like you work for your Social Security. They take it and withhold it from your check. So it isn't on if I need it. You give it to me because it's owed to me, right? But, that's my 2 cents. Let's see, one more thing, you guys, and I'll get us out of here. Here are some examples, really. Oh, it's 3:20. Okay, these are really quick. Every person in the United States should have access to health care. Another, filmmakers and recording groups should make objectionable language and subject matter known to prospective consumers, which that's just a fancy way of saying it should have the advisory labels. All right. So not my most interesting presentation. I will grant you that. Normally, when we talk about types of claim face-to-face, when I've introduced it in face-to-face classes, this is where students' eyes normally glass over, and it gets a tad bit boring, but I do want you guys to keep this in your notes. You will see it again. I'll add it to content just so if students wanted to go in and just review it a little bit further, you'll have that. But know at least an idea of the 5 types of claims, because as you guys over the weekend are reading the homework, and I included 2 articles, but there's only one I want you to read. So let me quickly show you that. Oops. And I know it's time to go. I'm sorry. So really quickly, just to make sense of what you guys see in your module, I included 2 articles on top of the assignment. Oh, I just lost somebody. Hold on, don't leave me yet, you guys. So this is I need week 6. So you guys noticed in week 6 module, oh, I gotta pull it up. It was all about the paper. So we talked about the art of quoting, that read the huge racial disparities found in deaths linked to pregnancy. So we're going to put a pin in this one, why sexually transmitted infections can't shake their stigma. Ooh, and we'll talk about that, just that title alone, right? But let's read the huge racial disparities. And as you guys are reading that, you are looking for what type of claim is the author making here? And then we're going to answer post-reading questions in class. But I want you guys to at least come on Monday with, in that article, she made a claim of value or she made a claim of policy. And then we'll pick up the discussion from that. Okay? So pretty easy. I am aware of the hard work you guys put into essay 1. I've kind of perused it, but plan to get your graded essays back. Normally it takes me a week and a half. So you guys submitted it on Tuesday. Let's say expect to have it back by next Wednesday. Okay. And if I can get it back to you any earlier than that, then it's all good. Okay. So, all right, my people, I'm 3 minutes over, but I'll go ahead and let you go. If anyone needed me, and I know Alejandra, pause for just a second before, or you know what, Alejandra, if you have to go, that's fine. I'll shoot you an email about what you, messaged me about. So I'll email you.
Miss Cole?
Yes.
I was wondering if I was one of the people that have the quiz missing because you said you got an email of a response or something.
Let me double check, Caesar. So you said one of the people who were missing, hold on.
Yeah, you sent an email out about quizzes.
Oh, yes, Caesar. Oh, okay. Okay. That's such a good question. I'm still working behind the scenes because I don't want to worry you guys too much. So every time I get someone who identifies a quiz, I kind of mark it off and then send out the email again as not to overwhelm you. So just simply, if you don't recognize any of that as you, don't answer, don't respond, don't worry, but look for more emails coming this week, because I've graded all of the quizzes. They're all graded, but I have about 7 out of 20 that do not have a name. And even though I have uploaded